Hey everybody, it is Friday, the 26th of June, and I'm in the office today, so I'm going to test and see if when I record in the office, if it's not super pixelated or anything like that. So we're going to test this out today. So as you saw from the thumbnail, we are talking about our children's voice, and what that means is advocacy for our kids. And when I talk about advocacy, it's really using your voice to help navigate your kid's life to meet the needs of your family. So if your child has an illness or something, be advocating for that. If your child's having learning problems, be advocating with that with other adults. So really just any of your kids' needs that aren't being met, how do you advocate for that? Or if your children are struggling with any sort of situation, whether that be like relationships or social emotional stuff, academic stuff, gross motor, fine motor skills, anything like that. If you're noticing that there's some behavior changes, there's probably something going on, and we're usually not the only adults in our child's life, so it's working with those adults to help solve those problems. So I want to explore that with you guys a little bit. So a lot of parents don't know that it's okay to speak up. I don't know why there's this myth that like the schools don't want kids involved, or teachers know best, doctors know best. They do know a lot and it's wonderful, but we're a team. So I don't think any of them want to try to solve your child's problem alone. It's not going to be beneficial to them or your child, because again, we are not the only adults in their life. So if we're working together as a team, we both can see and spot things, and just help with encouragement, help with all of the things that go into advocating for our kids. So the first thing I want to say to you guys is it's okay to speak up. We need to speak up. We can't be afraid. And when we're doing that, we're doing it respectfully, naturally. But a lot of times our kids don't have those skills yet. So it's our job to help advocate for them and speak on their behalf. It also, because one of the steps is teaching our kids how to advocate for themselves, the more we role model what that looks like, the easier they're going to pick up the tools required to advocate. It is intimidating. It is scary sometimes, but there are kids and we need to do it. Through learning how to advocate for my child, I know I've learned to advocate for myself better. So if it's something you never learned to do for yourself, these tips are going to be applicable to you as well. So you need to understand what an advocate is in order to speak up, and that really is you are the voice to help with any problems, struggles, illnesses, relationship problems, all the things I've covered so far, but anything you could see where your child needs somebody to help them navigate a system, then we need to help them. If you're not really sure where to go, it's always good to start by speaking with somebody you trust. So maybe you find somebody who's had a similar situation that can help you advocate, or if you're working with like an organization or school or something, you can talk to somebody within that sphere that you trust to help you navigate that. I mean, whenever we have problems like at work, we go to somebody we trust. If we have problems in a relationship, we go to somebody we trust. So when these are new situations, new territories we're facing, find those trusted people to help you navigate that. Remember that it's okay for you to show emotion. There are kids. We're passionate about them. We care about them. We're frustrated for them. Maybe we're not really sure what to do either because it's something that's challenging for us. But we need to be respectful and we need to be patient because they probably don't have all the answers either. And so in being patient, we need to listen to one another and figure out everybody's perspective, get all the facts, and know that making a plan doesn't mean you have to stay on that plan if it doesn't work, and having open communication so that you can readjust course if you need to. Don't be afraid to ask for additional resources and help for your kid. So wherever you're navigating, and a lot of this is geared towards school, and as our kids are growing, that is a huge focus of their lives. But they have sports and different things, but you could always get tutors or extra help. If they're having like some sort of like cognitive problem, speech, reading, anything like that, there's a lot of different services in place that the school can help refer you to. So asking for those extra help, there's sometimes programs within the school. Every school is a little different, but talking to your teacher and principal is going to help you do that. If it's something with like a sport or maybe another activity that's not associated with it, they usually have mentors or something that they can work with, or will give you some tools where you can work at home with your kids. So don't be afraid to ask that. The last thing on the speaking up part is don't give up. So you're frustrated. Just imagine how frustrated your child is. They're not able to express all of the things that are going on. And once they even are, they maybe don't know how to talk to adults in that way to where they feel empowered to voice their opinion or concerns. So they're going to be coming to you for that support and strength. So we have to be able to do that. And sometimes we have to be able to push our kids that way, especially as our kids get older. There's some advocating that they're going to have to do for themselves. And learning when your kids are ready for that, or when it's a task that maybe they should, you still want to support them and be there and guide them through that. So making sure they're not afraid to speak up either. So as your child's advocate, these are some things you really need to do. So getting all of the information is really important. So that's even just contact information, the when, where, if an event happened, or when it's going to happen. So you need to know all those things. It's helpful to know what your programs and availabilities are as well if you're looking for supports and resources. But if you don't, you still need to be educated on the possibilities of those. If your child has ADHD and that's what you're advocating for them, maybe to not be on medication, to change the teacher's teaching style, or specifically for your kid, or however that's going to look, understanding what's available, because sometimes you have to bring solutions to the table too. We can't just point fingers. We just are identifying a problem and trying to find solutions that make everybody happy and that are achievable by everybody. One thing on here is learn the rules of the game. So every environment we're in, there's restrictions on what, they're allowed to do in the schools. There's restrictions on, what people are able to offer and cover. So that's important. And then again, finding people you trust that maybe have navigated these problems already. Even if you're like at the doctor's office, I know some people, in order to get the child's needs met, they had to have a label, a diagnosis put on their child. And when you do that, you have to understand what that means. And it might be frustrating that your child needs a label to get the support that they need with or without the label. But don't give up, and that's just part of the game. There's just weird systems in place. Some things are just the way they are. And part of that is because we have some responsibility in it. And when you put that diagnosis in, it helps pick the lane that people are traveling down to solve problems together. Plan and prepare. So planning before you interact with somebody, prepare yourself for what you want to say or what you want to accomplish. Prepare yourself with being able to write notes down. And it's kind of like running a meeting. Okay, we talked about these points, and this is what needs to be done, and this is who's going to do it, and this is by when it's going to do it, and we are going to reconvene at this time. Things like that. Keeping organized with your written records follows with that. So we're going to talk about those a little bit more. You could have a journal log or something, and keeping detailed notes. Make sure you're asking lots of questions. I truly feel no question is a stupid question, especially if we don't know the answer. If they don't know the answer, well, then we all need to figure that out together. If they do, and maybe they've experienced something you haven't yet. So be patient with yourself and then listen to their answers, because you might not like what they're saying, or it's easy for us when we're wrapped up and feeling all emotional to hear something that's not actually being said. So try to take your feelings out of it when we're listening to those answers, because we don't want to put our bias, our prejudice of the situation on that, because some people are truly, truly trying to help. We are just so frustrated and upset that we don't always see that. Identify your problems. So specifically, when you go in, you need to know what you're asking for, what supports you're asking for, what problems or behaviors have occurred, what is the cause of those behaviors, or maybe the behavior is the problem that you want to solve. So then we're going to investigate to see what's causing that. Proposing solutions is always good. Maybe you guys have to do some research and that is the solution, and then you're going to reconvene. Planning for the future. So you want your child to be successful in every right way, and only you know what that looks like in your family. And you're going to be the one that sticks with your kid throughout their life. So you kind of have like this end goal, and knowing usually when you're working with like a doctor, they're just trying to make you better or get it manageable. If it's a school, we're trying to get through this grade or this task or this subject or something this year. But we know that maybe our child's going to have problems with that throughout their life. So we want to make sure we have things in place that will build upon learning or successes of health, whatever that looks like. So you kind of want to develop a master plan, because you might be solving some problems with one group of people, and as you go, you've got lots and lots of things you have to solve. So like if you think of an illness, there's a lot to do. Like just like, okay, we're going to take these medications, but we don't want them on them forever. So in this time frame, we'd like to try to start weaning them, and they need physical therapy, and they have doctor's appointments every week, but we want to be able to wean those off. And but we also want them to be able to go to school. So they're in their wheelchair right now. Then they're going to have OT. It just developing a master plan is very unique to your child's needs. Maybe it's just learning, and your child maybe has dyslexia or something, and so you know what that's going to look like. So if they're in the third grade, they're one-on-one a lot more with their teacher, but as they get to like 7th and 8th grade, there's a lot more teachers, and then they go to high school. So you want to be able to adapt in all their learning styles, or their learning environments for your child. So maybe you have research to do, and you're going to open communication, and you have this plan for every year. You're going to meet with the teacher and do check-ins, things like that. So no one else determines your long-term plan except you and your family. You guys are the expert on your child. So teachers might be the expert on, say it's a 3rd grade teacher, might be the expert on 3rd graders. So typical behaviors for a 3rd grader. Does that mean your 3rd grader is going to meet that little square box? Are they going to fit in there? They might not. And that's okay. That's why we work together to figure out things. And some things are totally fine to be out of the box. Other things we have to work on. We have to work on to get them to fit in that box, or at least kind of be touching the box for their success later. So when we're looking at all of that, there's just a lot of pieces, and depending on what your problem is, that master plan might be more complex than others. If you have that, I think it helps you set goals, and maybe you just need to develop for like that year, and then you're going to reevaluate and create the next one for the next year. That's okay. Whatever your planning style is. And the more you do it, the more you're likely to continue to do it correctly. If you're doing a plan, I feel like it helps you stay in track. So like every time you have a meeting and you have these notes, you can see where you're at in your plan. So like in business, we have our strategic planning. So when you have like program meetings or coalition meetings, you're always checking in to see if you're in line with your strategic plan. That's basically what this master plan is, your strategies for success for your child. So we typically ask questions on these cafes. So I want to ask, what does being an advocate mean to you? So do you advocate for your spouse? Do you advocate for a parent, a grandparent, a coworker? What does that look like? What does it mean to you when you're being advocated for, or you're advocating for someone? I feel like you get something very different out of each side of that. So I want you to explore that feeling a little bit. So if we're advocating for others, is that scary to you? Is it empowering to you? If you're being advocated for, do you feel supported? It just helps you to see what you're able to do, what you are allowed to do, what you're allowed to voice. So imagine those feelings and being able to give those positive feelings to your child. So that's what I want you guys to think about when we're advocating. So when I was doing my research, I always find cool little articles and stuff. And there was one that used the letters from Advocate to give you things that you can do. So we're going to go through those. So as an advocate for your child, these are really, really important tools / steps in the process. So aside from what we already covered with understanding what that means, and it's okay to show emotion, speaking with trusted adults, being professional, polite, listening, not giving up, right? So we have some other things that go in each of these categories. So A for advocate, attend meetings. So whatever is going to impact your child's life that you are that they're involved in, you should try to be involved as well. So at school, if you can be an active participant in PTA, you're going to know what that looks like. If you have them in sports, be an active participant with the coach meetings or show up to games, whatever that looks like. In school, see if you can give some time to your classrooms so they have parents can come in and do reading. They can help with different events, and just having open communication with your teachers, so that making that a priority. I know it's really hard. Some of us don't even get to see the teachers because one parent's dropping off, one's picking up, and it might be, before a teacher's even in a room, or you have them in hands because of your work schedules. And I understand that, but make sure you're checking to see how you can communicate with your teachers. So a lot of the schools use Power School here in Great Falls, and you'll see your teacher's contact information. You also get a handbook for each school, which will have contact information for all of them. When in doubt, talk to the principal, see if you can't get connected with the teacher. If you're having issues getting connected, there might be something going on that you don't know about, and we don't want to jump to conclusions, but having that principal intervene on your behalf, you'll probably get a faster response. So I would attempt with your teacher first, but if you do not get a reply, I think it's like 24 hours they have to get back to you if it's over the weekend. So it's 24 hours in like working days. And they should outline that in their agreement with you. So it's their parent engagement agreement. Also, be proactive. So you're in meetings, don't wait for something to boil up and then go announce that at a meeting. So be proactive and try to solve those problems with your kids and whatever conflict or barrier they're facing, that you deal with that head on, because it's just going to fester and get worse, right? So the sooner we can approach that, the more proactive we are, usually we have better success in helping with those challenges. So the D of advocate is document, document, document. Documenting everything is really crucial because our brains can only fill so much information. And it just helps you keep track of who you talk to, when you talk to them, where, like if it was on the phone, was it face to face? when was it pertaining to? Like we talked on 11/26 of 2019 about the incident that happened on 11/24, right? How it came to be, who called who, why it's happening. So you could create like your own little template if you wanted to, just in a regular, spiral ring notebook, or if you do it on your phone, like make sure you're taking some sort of notes, and you want them to be clear, logged in one place, and being consistent and training yourself how you want those to look, and making sure you're having all the information. It's also really good to make sure you put your follow-up items, and then you're checking in on those things as well. So it's kind of like a project management. So we tend to make problems bigger than they are, but they're really the same as every other problem in our life. It just, on as far as handling it, and making sure things get done. Like we always have to follow through. Some things can't continue till one other thing's done. So we work together with people. We're patient because our child might be our number one priority, but like a teacher has 30 other kids that they're trying to help too. So they might not get to things as quickly as you. Some will bend over backwards and try to do that. And even trying to do that, they still might not be able to do it as quickly as you. So please be patient with them and open communication, because if we're frustrated, it's better to be like, okay, I'm really concerned that this hasn't been done yet. And this, with anybody we're going to interact with as we are speaking up for our kids. So V for advocate is voice your concerns appropriately and clearly. So if we're being appropriate, it's easier to be clear, right? So we want to prepare and plan for this. Sometimes you might need notes to go in there because our emotions can take over, and that's okay if our emotions take over. But if we've gone ahead, made sure that we have a clear plan, so we can communicate clearly, it's going to be helpful. It's going to help us keep ourselves in check, so we're not doing any of the communication no-nos. So we're calling those the tone of voice commandments. So these are hilarious to me. Thou shalt talk to people the way I want to be talked to. So this is stuff we teach our kids, right? So we need to do them as well. Thou shalt not yell or curse. I have seen lots of adults do these things to other adults. You're not going to get a very good response. You don't want to teach your kids that that's the response. You also don't want your kids' friends to be like, oh, did you hear what his mom did? Like, we don't want to be that person. We can still convey things respectfully. You might be really angry and legitimately angry and have valid concerns and complaints, but we still have to be respectful. If you're the bigger person, it's going to turn out better for you. You might, I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with, teachers yet, because Aiden has just been in daycare and preschool. So that's a little bit different than at the K through 12 level, but I've still been polite and respectful. Anytime somebody's not, everybody cringes. Nobody wants to be around that person. You're not respected. And you might be feared, and it's not like a healthy fear. It's just like, gosh, I don't want to deal with that mom or that dad today. So people will avoid you instead of working with you. So let's not do that. Thou shalt not use patronizing or sarcastic tones. Some of us aren't good at camouflaging our feelings, and we're going to have to practice that. Later on, we talk about teaching our kids and having them practice, debate skills. We might not be very good at those skills either, and we need to practice. Run through the conversation with a friend or family member, your significant other. Just talk about it. Have somebody there to support you that can stay calm, because some of us can't. Some of us shut down when we can't be calm instead of doing all these things. So if you're one of those people, you might need some support too. Thou shalt not write emails or text in all capital letters. How many of you have gotten an email or a text in all caps? That really means somebody's yelling at you. I've gotten one, and it was a very unpleasant, even though the exact words weren't forceful. There was enough wiggle room in there to I don't know, interpret it either way, but the caps made it like pronounced, like that person was upset. And it was a professional person, and I lost a lot of respect for them doing that. And we just don't want to lose that respect. We want to be the bigger person. If somebody that you're advocating with your child for starts messaging you back that way, you need to go to their supervisor and have that nipped in the bud, because you should not feel threatened or have that aggression directed at you. You are the patron, or the client or the customer or the patient. Like, we deserve a little understanding and compassion too. So if we're playing by the rules and being professional, being respectful, being appropriate, being clear on what we want, they don't really have a reason to behave any other way than respectful towards us. So if they do, and you've been following all the rules, then you can call them out on that and get some help and support from their superiors. So, observe their behaviors. So when we say there, we're talking about your kids. So when we see behavior changes that concern us, there's usually a reason behind it. And we need to investigate that. The reason might not be bad, but often it is, or there's something that our child just didn't cope with well, or they're hiding from, or it forced their hand to do that, and it's not what they really wanted. So we have to investigate that in order to see what was the cause. So when we have behaviors, there's usually a cause. Could be good, could be bad, could be just a change, but we still need to know what that is so we can explore and support if we needed to. So if they're making changes in their social circles and physical appearance, we want to make sure that's for healthy reasons, not negative ones. And I strongly recommend, if you ever feel like your child's maybe struggling with something like depression or anxiety, research that and start having conversations with your kids. There's not always a reason for those. A specific episode, there might have been an event that occurred, and we still need to work and talk through those. But some of us are just predispositioned to be a little anxious or to be a little depressed from time to time. And the earlier we start addressing those things and giving healthy coping mechanisms, the better off we're going to be as we turn into adults. Okay, so the C of advocate is celebrate with them. So it's really easy to celebrate all the successes we have as we're growing, like graduated a grade, got an A, made the team, won the spelling bee, or whatever that looks like. Those are easy, but we also need to help our kids find the silver linings in the stuff that's not so pretty. So if a bad situation happened, the bad and the ugly, as they say, we can find silver linings in that and celebrate those. Maybe they conquered a fear, or practice some really good skills in trying to do problem solving or be patient with people. Or we learned a really good lesson from an event, and now we know when we are going to be stronger from it. So that can look like a lot of different things, but celebrating those silver linings, and you can do that whatever works for your family. Okay, so A, affirm who they are. Who doesn't love positive affirmation? So in a lot of love languages, we took a test with like 5 of them, and this was in everybody in my office's top 3. Like, it varied where that was at, but as adults, we love some positive reinforcement, some positive feedback. We like it. Our little kids love it. Our teenagers love it. They might not show it, but they need it, they want it, and they love it. So if we're struggling, they really need it, because it's easy, again, to celebrate good things. But if we're trying to find the silver linings, sometimes we have to pull those out and use those for our positive affirmations. So we want to be their biggest cheerleader, not their biggest doubter, right? If they are looking to us and feeling like we think they're a failure, we're one of the most important people in our child's lives. So there's several family members, but we are their first teachers. We are the ones they look to. If we're doing anything kind of right, they love us with no question, right? So we owe it to them to help them navigate this. So tell your child how smart and amazing they are. And if they doubt it, you can look up like how to praise kids in a positive way. There's some talk back and forth on that, like how to not say like, oh, you're so pretty or you're so smart, but congratulations on that A. Somebody might have gotten a C or a D, and that was really amazing for them because previously they were getting all F's. So great work. I loved your persistence. You're still trying. You haven't given up. And that says a lot about you, and I'm really proud of you. So we can make that look like a lot of different things. Encourage their gifts, talents, and abilities. So we also want to, help with the things that aren't their strengths. But when they have strengths and abilities, like honoring those, finding things that fit those, including education classes or coping tools or anything, you want it to be something they identify with. Help them accomplish their goals. They might have goals that don't really fit all of their strengths, but there's something they want to master. We can help them do that. Help strengthen their weaknesses. So that's probably harder to do, and you might need to enlist help, especially if the weakness, like maybe it's something you're really good at and you just don't understand why they wouldn't be. Sometimes it's just developmental, and just some of us are born with talents and gifts that others aren't. Even if they are a direct line from our DNA, they might not have those, and that's okay. But celebrating those and allowing them to be different than us, that's okay too. And then comfort them when they fail and fall. So I don't think you're ever really babying, I say that, by comforting your child when they're hurt. You need to listen to them. You need to show them empathy and compassion. And once they feel heard, then maybe you can work towards problem solving together. But telling them they need to suck it up, buck it up, pull up their suspenders, their britches, and get going, not helpful. So we can still want them to, well, we still have to get this done. I know it's really hard, but I'm here with you. I'm so proud of you for hanging on this long. What would make this better for you? What would make it easier for you? What supports would help you figure this out? Can I help you? Who would be a good fit to help you? Sometimes our parents teaching us stuff is not the best. A lot of us know that from COVID-19 and our kids being home with us. They just do differently with us as the parent versus somebody they see as their teacher. So don't be afraid to ask for those supports and help. Okay, the T of advocate. Teach your child. We do this by role modeling. So it's really important for us to practice all of these things, and we need to do them so our kids see that they're successful strategies, right? And then we need to be able to teach them how to advocate for themselves. So it's hard to know when it's time to like kick your kid out of the nest and be like, go flap your wings over there by yourself. We don't just totally turn our back on it, but hopefully we've been giving them the tools with small lessons in life as we go. So making sure our kids know to respect themselves and others. So when we respect ourselves, it's okay to say, no, I'm not comfortable with that. No, I don't want to do that. No, I don't like that. As long as they're being respectful, people should respect their feelings and opinions on that. And teaching them to respect others, they're going to get that in kind as well. How to use their voice and stand up for themselves is going to be really important. Again, being respectful and polite and being okay to have a voice and have an opinion. We do that from not shutting them down and letting them be heard and having a conversation. It's really hard sometimes because we are busy, so busy. And it's easier just to be like, no, just be quiet. Just do it because I said so. I try to catch myself all the time not to do that. If you do it, you can go back and be like, I'm sorry, please tell me what is bothering you. So my child restarts really quickly if I do a shutdown like that, and then come back calm, collected, and let him be heard. Another thing they had is Making sure they know how to write professional letters, emails, and other correspondence. So some people call that like netiquette. So it's etiquette online. And a lot of our youth don't have it. You know, a lot of them haven't written regular letters. They're used to all of their, like, what is it called? Like they use emojis and they use all of the, you know, TY for thank you and things like that. That's how out of date. I don't even know what the word is. And they'll only write things like that. And so they'll write emails that way as well when they need to be a lot more detailed and clear, because not everybody communicates that way. So E of advocate, empower them. So teaching them is great, but we need to do more than just teach. We need to empower them and make sure they know that they have the ability and the power to advocate for themselves. They are allowed to advocate for themselves. So again, hard to know when you're supposed to be stepping back, but you can test the waters on easier things and see. And every child's going to be different. So this is not something I'd be like, yeah, at age 10, they're ready to fight all their own battles. Definitely not, right? They might be able to handle some of their playground issues without getting a whole bunch of parents and teachers involved, because we've taught them how to handle difficult situations like that. But if it doesn't resolve, we still can't step back. I mean, how many of you still help advocate for your college age kids or beyond college because you have the experience and your child asks you and says, I need help? That's okay. But we still want to teach our kids how to handle and take care of themselves. So, ways to prepare your kid. Allow your child to properly and appropriately voice their opinion with you and their siblings and other family members. So sometimes that's hard, but as they grow so fast. As they get a little older, they can grasp the concept of that. So it's a lot of repetition, and it's a lot of, I didn't like the way that sounded. You know, that tone was not appropriate. This is why. You can explore that in a healthy, safe environment. Number 2, show them that you respect who they are by not ignoring their concerns and opinions just because they are a child. So my 4-year-old needs this. He is only 4, but some people that have 4-year-olds expect them to be adults. So we need to treat them as such, as far as giving them the respect and honoring what they are and where they're at cognitively. We don't want to minimize their problems because they're a big deal to them. It might seem silly, and in a few years they might laugh about it too, but it's still a big problem to them. Or they just don't know how to solve problems, even conflict, with us as the parent. So trying to be patient and have some understanding of where they're at developmentally is going to be big. Even as teenagers, they don't always know how. And they're dealing with a whole lot of different issues than we ever did, and all the same ones we did. So imagine how hard your teenage years were, and then add what they're doing now. It's just a lot more stress and anxiety. And I feel like there's just a lot of pressure on them to be adults, and they're not adults yet. So remember that. Kids are not adults, but they still need to be respected and heard. This is the biggest thing I need you guys to remember. You are not alone. You're not alone as an advocate for your children. You are not alone in solving problems for your child. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to ask questions. There's support groups out there. There is a plethora of good information to help you get educated on a topic. If you need more than that, take somebody who is educated on it to help you. Make sure that you're talking to people you trust. When we are not alone and we're with a toxic person or somebody with an ulterior motive, we can usually feel that. So trust your gut on that and do what's right for you and your child and your family. You might hurt somebody's feelings along the way, but I don't feel like that truly matters if we are advocating for our kids, because they are more important. We obviously don't want to burn bridges that would hinder our child's success. So if we are doing things appropriately and as professionally as we can, That's all that can be asked of you. So please, please, please know that you're not alone. You can always email me on here too, or I guess message me on here. And, our emails are everywhere. Go to lionsforyouth.org and you can ask us questions. We have our Facebook page. So please, 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 if you trust somebody, reach out to them. If you don't, take a chance on us, because we will do our darndest to help you find good supports. So a few more follow-up questions after we've discussed all these things and you've kind of gotten some maybe enlightenment on what an advocate is. Do you feel empowered to help your child? Do you feel like you can do it? You have the permission to do it. You have the skills to do it. You have the resources to do it. You have the support to do it. Do you feel like that? And if you do or don't, why? And if it's all positive, it's amazing. If you have any, like you're not, that's okay. You still need to brainstorm this, because you'll find out where your weaknesses are at and what you need to get some support on before you can feel empowered to advocate. I have no doubt that you guys have been advocating for your kids. This just gives you a little more insight on how important it is, and that you're not alone in doing it. And then our final question: what strengths do you have that help when you are advocating for your child? So we all have strengths and weaknesses, but listing out our strengths, we need to play on those. And then understanding what our weaknesses are, we can strengthen those. So that goes hand in hand with the last question as to why it's important that we know those things, and we can find the support and resources we need to strengthen them. If we have a lot of strengths, we might help others advocate, which is really important, because a lot of us need help. There's a lot of us that haven't experienced certain things and we have no idea. We don't know the rules of the game. It's a whole new playground and we need to figure it out. And having others that come along and support us, it's great. So you're giving back. Like if you are showing up and attending those meetings and being a part of all those factors that involve your kid's life, you can build some really great community and supports with your network of parents. So don't be afraid to get involved. Don't be afraid to have an opinion. Don't be afraid to share and just help and enjoy your kids growing up and enjoy being a process of that. That's not just at home. So you get to show them, you get to show your kids how you interact in the community and how community is important and how to interact within your community. A lot of kids don't really know how to do that because we silo our kids a little bit, but we want them to be respectful to adults. But then when they're too afraid to talk to adults later, and every kid's a little different based on their personalities and everything, but anything we can do to encourage positive interactions and how to positively solve problems, it's going to be a win-win for all of our success. So I hope you guys enjoyed this topic today, and I hope you got some insights into yourself and how you will handle advocating for your child in the future. I wish you all a very happy Friday. It's almost the 4th of July. Woo! Next week, right? So have a great weekend and be safe, stay well, and we'll talk to you again soon.